What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Comic Book Weekly. All three of us are here for a second consecutive week in a row, and I can pretty much say that we're on time. That's a rarity. Like we're on time, right?
Yeah.
I'm shocked.
So yes, welcome back to another episode. Of course, I'm Mike Spider Slayer from the YouTube channel Comic Book Corner 2.0. I have Cat Comic Uno here.
Hello.
And then I have Brant Fowler.
What's up, everybody?
These guys are some of, I'm going to say, one of the more talented comic book creators out there. If you guys haven't known that, they make their own comic books, so they know what they're doing. Me, I'm just a YouTube guy, so I just make my own videos here talking about these comic books. But go out and support them, guys. Really good stuff here. But we also have a wonderful show. We're going to talk about the top 5 comics like usual. We're going to take the comic books news, and we're going to talk about some of your guys' comments. We're going to take some of your questions like usual. So, yeah, we're going to have a great show. Hopefully, you guys will be on board with this topic today. It's definitely a different topic, but I'm curious to hear what everyone's got to say about just the X-Men in general at this period, So we'll get to that, but first off, we're going to start with some of the other news first. So kick it off, Kat.
Yeah, so we're going to start with some media news, and then we'll get into that comic news. So first up is Umbrella Academy is ending with its 4th season. I don't watch Umbrella Academy, so I don't have much thoughts on that one.
It's a good show. That's one Lisa and I really enjoy. Like, we binged the last season really fast. And, I'm sad to see it go, but everything they've been through in the past 3 seasons, I think it's a good time to end it. They're like, I don't want to spoil too much, but something happened at the end of last season that's really going to affect them in a completely different way going into this one. So it's going to be fun to watch how it all wraps up.
Did you read the comics, Brant, or no?
I did not. I think I tried one of the series at some point, not too long ago, maybe a couple of years ago, but I haven't read like the whole thing or anything.
Gotcha. I never read it or watched the show. I watched a couple episodes of the show, but I couldn't actually keep up with it at the time because obviously so busy and whatnot. And sometimes when you have a show on Netflix and they release an entire season, it can be daunting at times.
Yeah.
But I did like the first couple episodes I did watch. I just got to go back and read it. And the reason why I asked you about the comics is if they surpass the comics or are they telling kind of a similar story?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know there's like similar elements to it. If I'm not mistaken, they might have veered a little bit from what I've heard or read about it, but I'm not, I'm no expert on the comics, so I'm not exactly sure.
Right.
But I really like the tone of the show. It's just fun, and there's like certain characters that are goofy or whatever, but there's a lot of serious stuff going on too. So it's got something for everybody, I think.
That's cool.
Very cool. Well, let's get into the next thing, another very popular show based on indie comics, which is The Boys. I would say one of the most popular shows out right now. And then the actor who plays Negan in The Walking Dead is actually going to be joining the cast, Jeffrey Dean Morgan. This is an interesting piece. I got to catch up with The Boys. This is definitely one that I'm like, I do want to watch, but it's something you got to sit down and watch. It's I think 2 seasons in. So also a heavier show. So it's like, oh, okay. 3 seasons. There you go. 3 seasons in. So I'm like, all right, gotta sit back and catch up with this one at some point.
Yeah. Now they just need to get Jared Padalecki, and they got the whole Supernatural
right?
thing, right?
I'm sure they'll get him at some point with the CW going down the tubes. Maybe they'll have a chance.
Yeah. I have to watch The Boys too. It's kind of funny because it's going to be harder for me to watch this one because of how graphic it is. And I actually got around to watching maybe a half hour of the first episode. And it's funny because it's under my wife's account, and then I forgot her password and I couldn't get back in. And so now it's so stupid, but I got to try to watch it again. Yeah. It's hard though, but this is on my list to watch too. And it's kind of funny because when I was sick with COVID, I was like, oh, I got to watch The Boys, you know? And then I was like, I couldn't get into my wife's account. I was like restricted to that room. I couldn't leave it. So I was just like, and I was too lazy to text her for some damn reason or whatever it was. So I was like, oh, I'll just watch Breaking Bad. But yeah, on my list, Jeffrey Dean Morgan. It's just like, hey, whenever you want your show to even get better, let's put him in it.
Exactly.
For sure. I agree. We do have a couple of questions here. Tevi Axe, has anyone watched Game of Thrones House of Dragons? I've never seen Game of Thrones, don't really have an interest, so don't really have an interest in this one.
I have not watched this yet. Lisa and I, we've been putting it off. We've been watching other stuff, and we were like, we'll wait till a couple episodes are up and then binge it, and we still haven't. So eventually I'll get to it.
I never watched an episode of Game of Thrones either, because I never had HBO. So like I never had it, and right now I don't have HBO Max. So, but to catch up, again, man, it's just like I can't watch all these TV shows and read all these comics and make all these videos and have a life. It's so hard to do everything.
The good thing about House of Dragon is it's a prequel, so you don't really need to watch Game of Thrones to watch it.
I guess so. So you watch this first and then go watch Game of Thrones after that.
But you'll be disappointed how Game of Thrones ends. Everybody is.
Right.
That's what most people have said. Yeah.
It's like one of those things. It's like the first 6 seasons were really good, and then it's like, oh.
We do have another question, which is less word of comics. Have you seen She-Hulk? I haven't seen it yet. I don't think that's too surprising. But
it's only a half-hour show, Kat.
I know. Haven't watched the second episode.
Okay.
I also like binging these shows a little bit more. I think I've very much realized that. Like, I'd rather just watch it as a whole with these type of shows. There's some shows like Harley Quinn I've been enjoying watching episode by episode. But newer shows, it's so hard to just be like, all right, I'm going to watch this on a weekly basis. I want to see A League of Their Own because I've heard so many great things. It's gay. It's baseball. That'd be up my alley. And I haven't even watched that. And that's episode by episode. I'm like, I'd rather just binge it.
I get that. She-Hulk it goes by so fast that it's like, is it over already?
And the second episode good too?
Yeah, it was. And FYI, so far there's been a cut scene at the end of both episodes.
Oh, nice.
I saw the first cut scene, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just fun stuff. But the second episode's really good as well. And it's the same tone. Yeah, I think the actual episode was only like 20 minutes, Mike. There was like 6 minutes of credits.
Yeah, it was hilarious. It was like everything I was hoping for in that first episode of like very hopeful of what She-Hulk would be like. And I think they make it kind of like a little campy, a little funny, you know, it just, and then the character, like She-Hulk herself, like she's very confident of herself and just kind of what you would expect from the character. Like, I like it.
And she does break the fourth wall, which I love.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's comic accurate.
Definitely.
Speaking of before talking about Jeffrey Dean Morgan, there's some more news for the new Walking Dead Maggie and Negan show. It has a name. It's like the 10,000 Walking Dead show. It's called Walking Dead Dead City. So there you go. There's dead twice.
Yeah,
it changed the name. I was reading the article and it was like something Dead Isle or something weird like that. And so I might check this out too, because if these are like two of my favorite characters in the Walking Dead series.
Sure. And
being that these two are working together based off of what happened in the show, I find it quite interesting. So the dynamic between the two could be kind of cool. I mean, I know Walking Dead is kind of, ran its course by far, I think, at this point, but for some reason they keep putting out these shows and I guess people are still watching it. So I don't know.
They must have a, hardcore fan base there.
I still haven't finished the main series yet. I gotta finish it.
Me either, but I don't think I ever plan on going back. So
I do occasionally. Sometimes the mood will strike me and I'll revisit it, but not yet.
I do not understand the She-Hulk hate. I thought the first few episodes. Is there a lot of people hating on it?
There's a lot of because it's like, I guess more of like a feminist angle of the Marvel universe. People
But
are like, oh, they're just dumping on it.
But did they even watch it,
No.
or are they
Oh
just
no, they're
assuming
just
that
like,
of course
they're
not.
just review bombing. Yeah, they're just review bombing it.
They've been hating on it since before it came out.
Right.
Yeah, with the trailers and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it's just, it sadly happens with some, trolls and stuff. But
Absolutely.
I think that most people have actually watched it do like the show, though, from what I hear. So that is a shame for sure. All right, let's get into the next thing, which is, let me see. WandaVision director is in talks for the Fantastic Four, which I think is cool because I honestly feel that that's the best thing that's ever come out of Marvel was WandaVision. And the Fantastic Four, I think, is a very make it or break it for Marvel. If that doesn't do well, I don't know if as many people are going to be watching the Marvel Universe. I do think that's like the big, like, okay, especially because these last couple of movies, a lot of people have had a lot of different opinions. Usually it's like, oh, this movie was great, but these past couple, not as much.
Right.
I mean, when it comes to these movies, I mean, when you get like Fantastic Four and X-Men or whatever it is, these are going to be the next big movies, and they gotta do them right. And I think from what I heard, all these other movies that they released are kind of the movies like with the characters dealing with the aftermath of, Endgame and whatnot. So I think at this point now, going forward into that was phase 4, right? So Ant-Man, Quantum Mania, or whatever it is. I think after that, then you're going to go into phase 5 or whatever. So I think phase 5, you're going to start seeing some things improve. The problem is that you can't have every movie be like an Endgame. You just can't. It's impossible. There's got to be a lull. There's got to be a build up once again until you get to that high level once again, And so I think these movies were just kind of movies introducing characters in the MCU or finishing off certain things or maybe introduce some younger characters. But I don't know, that's my thought process of it. You just can't have every movie that way. When we were introduced to the Marvel and the MCU and you just had Iron Man, we weren't spoiled with superhero movies. We're spoiled with them now, and we expect every single movie to be at that high level. And I don't think that's really possible every single movie.
Yeah. I mean, I think the beauty of it is when they mix up the tone and like they did with Ant-Man, Guardians was a completely different movie than like the Avengers stuff. And Ant-Man was completely different from all that. And just keep doing that, keep mixing it up, keep trying different things like that and keep it fresh.
Right.
And I also like the character journey. Like Shang-Chi was like, even it had some similar tones to previous Marvel movies, but felt like I was following the character, unlike maybe Doctor Strange or Thor. I was just like, ooh, this is a little bit too off for me.
Yeah, totally. And with Fantastic Four, I mean, the focus has got to be on family, right? So that's going to be another completely different vibe. So,
and I think,
go ahead.
I think I think that's what is going to make those movies different because we haven't seen those characters. So when you're getting like Doctor Strange for the 18,000th time, and you get in Thor for the 4th time, and you get in Iron Man for this amount of time, what happens is you get used to those characters. You get almost like desensitized to those characters, and now you need something fresh, you need something new, and you need something that's going to make a difference. And like you said, the Fantastic Four is the cornerstone of Marvel Comics. Like they started it all. So I think that movie is very important, and it does need to do well.
Yeah. And if that director gets the job, if the WandaVision director takes over Fantastic Four, I think there was a lot of family touchstones in WandaVision. So I think it's a good fit, and I'd love to see, what that director can do for Fantastic Four. So.
Sure. Getting a lot of comments about, do you think Wanda will return?
Right.
I think they pretty much have confirmed that she will. Like, this is like the start of her journey. So I don't think you have too much to worry about.
I think the X-Men will be important too, like how they introduce them or which mutants are in there as well.
For sure. No, I definitely agree. Okay, let's move on to the other side of the fence, which is DC. They believe have found their Kevin Feige with let me get his name. Dan Lin. He has done things like the Lego Movie, Aladdin, and It. So
I've not seen any of those, so well, I saw the Lego movie, but
I seen It and I saw the Lego Movie. Love the Lego Movie. It is fine. I have not seen Aladdin, but I think what's funny is that they're just all so different. Like that's like a very wide palette. But
which might mean that's good though in a way.
Yeah.
Because it shows you that he can do different things.
Right.
I just think they're just trying to do things with like Marvel though. Like I think it's great that they have one guy, but it's just like, all right, well, now what? I think I don't know. It just seems
like does that mean are they going to try doing like what Marvel did and build up a universe again? Or are they just going to do these individual movies? Like that's the problem.
Right.
They need some kind of direction, and that's just what they don't have right now. So it's just like you need to make a decision and stick with it. If you want to do individual movies, that's great. But the movie that does look good though is Black Adam. Like that movie, the trailer on that looked phenomenal, and I am definitely looking forward to that. It's probably one of the most exciting DC movies that I'm looking forward to watching in a long time.
Yeah.
See, I'm more excited for Shazam. Like I really like the first one. I kind of like the vibe. Like the one I like The Rock a lot, so I'm interested to see that. But the feel of it feels so similar to a lot of the other DC things because it's kind of muddy. It's like an anti-hero story. I'm definitely gonna see it. I'm curious to see what it'll be about, but I don't know if Black Adam's gonna save the DC universe.
Yeah. Just throwing out some other things that he's done. He's done the 2 Sherlock Holmes movies from 2009 and 2011.
No.
I actually like those. Walker on the CW, which I have not seen, but he's the executive producer on that. What else? Sherlock Holmes 3 is in production. Lethal Weapon 5 is in production. He's doing Settlers of Catan. Yeah, right. That's interesting. He's doing a Catan movie. That's
like the board game?
Yeah, like the board game.
That is interesting right there.
Right.
It's like the Jumanji movie.
Yeah. That's funny.
I think what Black Adam 2 is doing is also introducing a couple new characters too in the screen. Like we're getting Hawkman.
Yeah.
And then you're getting who else is it? Is it
Adam Smasher?
Adam?
Yeah.
So you're getting those couple characters. And then we're getting the Joker too, which, oh my God, I still haven't seen the first Joker movie yet. I still haven't seen that.
I'm not a huge fan of the first Joker movie. I don't know.
I heard a lot of people like it, so I don't know.
I think you'll like it. I did not hate it. I just remember walking out saying I didn't need it. I was like, okay, fine. But it's not one of my favorite Joker stories.
What would you guys like to see out of DC movies?
I want to see more of like just movies that are just about the characters. I like to see more Shazams and more Wonder Womans. They do not need to be connected. Just give me good stories about these characters. I don't want a connected universe.
I mean, I don't care. I don't think I care if it's connected either, because at the end of the day, I think it makes it harder. And I think you're only going to get it one time, and that was from Marvel. And I think that's the only time you're going to ever get what they accomplished. But I mean, I would love to see a Green Lantern movie again. I would love to see a Green Arrow movie. Why not? You could do a Green Lantern and Green Arrow movie. You could do that to, pay homage to the comics. I mean, there's so many different things that you could do. You could do a Teen Titans movie. I don't know they do that because they had the show. But I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do.
I know we say there's always too much Batman, but seeing a Bat Family movie would be cool. And if they were going to do some kind of joint universe kind of thing, though, why not just give us an already established Justice League? Everybody knows who the Justice League are. They know all the characters. Just give us. They already know each other, and they're fighting some major threat.
They tried doing that with Zack Snyder's, though. I mean, I guess they tried building it up, but then they did have characters like Cyborg.
It was so. There was nothing to that movie, though.
Right.
It was just so. Ugh.
Right.
I mean, we all remember the scene when they're, driving in a pickup truck and there's no one else in trouble except those two humans in the entire earth. Yeah. I mean, that movie was bad. It was just bad. I got through halfway through the Snyder cut, and it just.
I didn't watch any of it.
It was too.
I mean, I watched the original, but I was like, I didn't like the originals. I don't need this long cut.
Serenity says DC movies, Natana, Justice League Dark, Legion of Superheroes. That's all I need. I'll take others like Supergirl, but those are my top 3.
But they're so such an acquired taste.
They are, but like if you did something with Legion of Superheroes like you did with Guardians of the Galaxy, there's a whole ensemble of character types in that universe, and it's in the future, so you're not married to all the stuff you gotta do back here. So they could do something completely different with that, I think. So that would be interesting.
True.
I just think with these, if you did these DC movies and make them individual movies, and it's okay, like if you did a sequel or whatever it is, I think what it would do is it definitely open up the eyes to the moviegoer out there and understand who some of these DC characters are besides your Batman, your Superman, and like even your Flash, and Wonder Woman. You know what I'm saying? So this way, not that this always makes a difference, but maybe people might be interested more in DC Comics. I mean, you saw Marvel Comics blow up because of all of these movies. Who's to say that it couldn't happen on DC's end? And it doesn't need to be a shared universe, like you said. It could be just the reintroduction of these characters to spark DC Comics once again, overall as a company.
For sure.
In reply to Mike Manhattan's comment, you could even do like an Animal Man Swamp Thing, the red and the green. Yeah.
See, that's the version of like the Justice League Dark nature I would like to see, because I feel like it's just 2 characters. It's easier to focus on, and it's 2 characters that have been successful in the comics. Like Justice League Dark, can we call that a successful comic? Like I know people know of it, but it was never like blew up like Scott Snyder's Swamp Thing or Jeff Lemire's Animal Man.
Yeah, you think you could see I don't know if they could pull it off or if anyone would attempt it, but how about like a Blackest Night Green Lantern film?
It'd be a lot.
It would be a lot, right? But maybe like if you introduce Green Lantern as a movie, right? As Green Lantern, like redo it, introduce him, get a movie, and then you could do a sequel with Blackest Night and make it a 2-part movie. You could do something like that.
You could, but like Civil War and like Secret Invasion, it's not going to live up to the comics because you can't involve the entire DC universe in it. You know what I mean?
True.
And the build up too. Like, how do you build that up? Like, the reason Blackest Night was such a good book is because Jeff Johns planted such seeds in his run, you know, and it was just so organic to get there. There were just so many different things that made that a successful event. But I would love to see the spectrums of the Green Lantern rings be explored. I think that's a really good start of like, who's the Star Sapphire, who's the Orange Lantern. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some possibilities out there when it comes to DC movies. I think it's there. And if they have their person, let's hope they do. And come out with a clear direction, whether, I'm like I said, whether it's those individual movies and they have sequels, I think that's fine. I think people will go see them. You don't need a shared universe. Like I said, I think that's going to be 1 in a million.
Yeah.
We're still yet on the table to see if Marvel can duplicate what they did before.
Yeah. That's true.
So
and also HBO Max might close. So let's see if that happens first.
Yeah. You definitely know they're trying. It's just a matter of if they can execute it.
Yeah. Another one they could do is just for like a goofy comedy, Booster Gold and Blue Beetle.
Yeah. But also we don't even know if they have enough money to do all this because they've been losing so
true.
much money. And also they literally could only release 2 movies this year that they've already produced, but because of like promotion and stuff, they have so little money that they only can release the Harry Styles movie, the Olivia Wilde movie, whatever it's called, Darlings, and then also Black Adam, and that's it. That's all the money they have.
That's why they gotta hope that the movie that they do have generates income, so they have money to work.
Well, they've
with.
already made them. Like,
right.
I think because of the whole Discovery thing, it's just like they can't make new ones right now. It's just like it's such a mess.
They're getting pretty close to the situation that Marvel was in, where Marvel put all their money into Iron Man, and it was a sink or swim situation, and Iron Man just blew it out of the water. Because in all honesty, again, we never saw anything like Iron Man before on the big screen. So it was absolutely amazing, and it blew everyone.
And Robert Downey Jr. is coming back.
Perfect casting,
Yeah, it was a perfect casting for it. And it's just like, are we to the point, like I said, where we're just spoiled with these superhero movies and we expect everything to be at that high level? You know, so is it too late for DC Comics?
Tevi asks, why can't they make new ones? Because of the money. You can't make money from thin air. You have to see if the things they already did are selling, but then they're pulling all this stuff. So it's just like a hot mess. It's a hot mess. There's like so many different voices happening. It is crazy. We do have a couple other questions. Someone asks about, would you like to see a Teen Titans movie? Sure. But there's also the Titans TV show. I know that doesn't matter as much, but like, you know, that still exists. And then Roland says that they think the DC's animated films are awesome and better than the big screen movies. There's a time in my life I would have said I agree, but I don't think the products they've been putting out recently fits the bill.
I agree. And if you want to hit the mass audience, you need to put it in the big screen. You got to put movies out there. So whether you can only do 1 movie right now a year or 2, just focus on that 1 or 2 movies and make sure they hit it out of the park. You know, like, for instance, Batman. Batman always does great, right? But look at how much, but people were kind of like, oh, is this Batman going to be good? And it kicked ass. It did really well. So now we don't
even know if it's going to continue, though, because of what happened. They're like, oh, we don't know if we want to do more Batman.
But hopefully it does. And hopefully they can get outside just Batman. Because just like the comics, we know that Batman sells.
For sure.
Yeah.
Figure Drawing says, give modest budgets for minor characters to great indie directors. What's interesting, one of my friends was talking about Matt Damon was on like a TV show. And he was answering a question of why we don't see more dramas like in blockbuster movies, and he said because there's no DVD sales anymore. Whatever is being made at the theater is all the money that movie is making. So let's say they don't, make their budget in the theater, it's done. But back in the day when there was a drama and didn't make money in the theater, they had all those DVD sales they could rely on. They don't have that anymore. So I think seeing the smaller indie movies, that's why we don't see them anymore, or they're just placed somewhere else. It just won't be in the movie theaters. Like, so streaming.
Once it goes to like a streaming service or something, like they don't get any cut from that.
I don't know how the streaming services work, but it's definitely not as much as DVDs.
Because you're not typically. They'll have it where you can buy it for a little while, like on Prime or whatever. But it's just the subscription cost. And I don't know how those deals work.
I think the streaming service buys it, right? So they buy it.
They buy
and
the
then
rights.
You can't make more money from that. It's just whatever the streaming service bought it for.
Obviously, the company has to make some kind of profit off of once they put it on their streaming service. There's got to be some kind of, income generated from it, like a percentage,
Yeah. But it's just not. It can't be as much as you made from those physical sales, like you were saying, Kat. And same thing. I'm just wondering if they get like
per view, or
I honestly don't think so. I think it's more of the license. I think it's like when Seinfeld is on the CW, like they're paying they're paying a syndication price. So they're not paying for how many people are watching it. They're paying for how much time is there, and they're getting the syndication price. But the issue is that streaming services are so secretive with their numbers and like how that all works. We don't know. And I think that's why we're seeing a lot of dramas go straight to streaming. And then like Netflix are making these dramas. But at the same time, streaming is also suffering now because there's so many of them. And there's not enough time to promote all these movies. Like Chris Evans just had a movie, The Gray Man. Who the hell watched it? Who's talking about it? Nobody. And that was a drama on Netflix. And it's Chris Evans.
Yeah. And that was a very the budget on that was very high. It was one of the most expensive movies ever made on Netflix.
Yeah, and no one talked about it. And
I never seen it.
Me either. And I have no interest in seeing it because I didn't even see Chris Evans on a talk show. I didn't see any promotion for it. Sharni says VOD is still a thing. Apple Vudu VOD is different from streaming, rentals, and buys. Yeah, but it's not like someone going to Costco and getting Legally Blonde, like there's times we all, I'm probably the last one of that generation, but we all remember when we went to like Blockbuster, or again, you go to Costco or you go to like your grocery store and you saw a couple of these movies. You're like, I guess I'll get this. It's $5. Yeah. You don't have that anymore because no one's buying DVDs.
And even stuff like Vudu and Redbox and so on and so forth, I don't think they're as prevalent now because everybody's just getting streaming services. Yeah. I'm sure there are people that rent stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's obviously they still do because they're still around, right?
But there's not much of it. It's not the mainstream audience doing it.
Right, exactly. It's the same thing where you still see Blu-rays and you still see DVDs in the stores. Yeah. Like it's just they're not purchased as much as they once were.
Yeah, so I think that's why we're seeing movies change, streaming services change, and we're just living in this era of like, who knows what's going to happen, and we're seeing the effects of that. It's still interesting.
You could see the collapse of streaming services. You never know. I mean, just with all of them out there. Yeah. We talked about that honestly. Too.
Yeah, too many. We do have one more streaming service topic, and then we'll go into comics. It looks like there's other streaming services that are interested in the Bruce Timm Batman show, which I mean, we're not totally surprised by. But I think, HBO Max really dropped the ball because there's people like Netflix looking for this one. I think Apple was another one. So it's like, oh man, like this is going to be one of the bigger shows, and HBO Max.
That was a mistake. That was a mistake right there. Because if there is an animated show that will be watched, it's going to be that one.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, it's crazy. The three of you are back. We are back. Thank you, KO.
We were back last week.
Yeah,
we are. Yeah, we were back last week.
It's on the channel. And also the audio version went up live this morning, so you can check that out.
Hey. So definitely check. We had a great show last week, and we have obviously a great show to come for this one as well. All right. Well, Brent, did you have any thoughts on the Bruce Timm news piece?
Really.
All right. Let's get into comics then. So I read this one to Mike before we went on the show, but Marvel's having like a vampire event, I guess we'll call it.
Oh yeah, man. Let's go.
I missed that.
Yeah. It came out today.
Put it up recently, yeah.
Yeah, it's a recent one. They're teaming up with like the X-Men and Spider-Man, and there's vampires. I'm like, man, we're getting a lot of vampires as of recent.
The Forgiven teams up with Spider-Man, X-Men, and the Avengers in 2023. I think Ryan Stegman's behind it.
I know that he created it, but I don't know if he's going to be doing this one. He created like the original. I think Tim Seeley is definitely going to be doing the writing of this.
Oh yeah, back in 2011, I think it was.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I'll check it out.
Tebby asked why we need another Marvel event. I don't know if it's a Marvel event. I think it's just like
I don't think it's an event.
Little thing.
They've done these things where it's like one shots or just individual books, kind of like how Ms. Marvel is teaming up with like a whole bunch of people right now, and it's an individual issue like Ms. Marvel and Wolverine, Ms. Marvel and Moon Knight, Ms. Marvel and Venom. And it's a one continuous story, but they all have their own #1 issues.
Right. Yeah. No, I'll probably skip it, but cool.
I think I'm going to skip this one as well.
I'll let you know how good it is because it's going to be great.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure it's going to be one of the best. We have another topic here, which is Dave Marquez. He's done a lot for DC and Marvel. He has his own creator-owned book with Zest World. I just always think these news pieces are interesting. Just seeing these other platforms grow, and I think this is the first time Dave Marquez has done a creator-owned book. I don't know if I'm gonna check it out because I'm not invested in Zest World, but hopefully it gets picked up somewhere else as well.
I hear Zest, I think, is soap.
I know,
right?
Yeah. I was like, "What the heck is Zest World?" And then I was like, "Oh yeah, we did talk about that at one point in time."
A while ago, Jimmy Palmiotti, I believe, has something there, and then maybe Tim Seeley. I don't remember.
I looked at. I mean, the cover looks cool, and the concept sounded interesting. It was oddly similar, a little similar to Bendis's new book, The Ones, but it looked more interesting than that one. There was a preview of that one in the back of what was it? Minor Threats of Bendis's new book. I wasn't really feeling it, so I'm a little hesitant about that one now.
I didn't read the preview. I think I'm glad. I guess I'm lucky and happy I didn't read the preview. It sounds like
it went in a direction that I was not expecting it to go, and I don't know that I like the direction it went. So.
Infamous Mike says, I thought Jimmy Palmiotti was doing something at Image. I don't think so. I know Jimmy does a lot for Kickstarter, doing Zest World, but I have not heard any announcements for Image Comics. Let's get into the next thing, which is Wasp is getting a miniseries celebrate her anniversary. I guess it's going to be a continuation of this Ant-Man stuff, except it's just going to focus on Janet. I haven't been loving the Ant-Man stuff, but we'll see what issue 2 brings. But I'm definitely curious to see where it goes. I'm going to continue to read the Ant-Man stuff and continue to read Wasp.
I like the first issue. Definitely a different vibe. Obviously, it's like a Silver Age vibe. But the second issue comes out, I think it's tomorrow. And it's going to go into the future now with Ant-Man. And I'm sure it'll go into space because Al Ewing likes everything to be space and weird and crazy, right? But if the Ant-Man series continues to do well, then I'll probably pick up the Wasp series. If not, then I probably won't pick that one up.
I wasn't going to, but this article says she's teaming up with Nadia.
Oh, that's even cooler.
Yeah, so that made me like, okay, maybe I'll check it out then. So I think that's cool if those two team up.
All right, well, let's get into our main topic, which is a secret X-Men reality show. But this is not a comic physically. It's going to be on X-Men, on Marvel Unlimited. And it's going to focus on the aftermath of the Hellfire Gala, and it's going to be in the form of a reality show. I think it's such a shame that it's going to be on the digital platform because this kind of sounds fun. I would have picked up
come out in physical form. It's going to come out. But then
it's going to be like a year from now, and it won't matter then.
You know, it's like, no one's going to read it. And then they're going to, just like they have like X-Men Green, and that title's coming out. And wasn't there all those other ones that came out like also?
I don't know if all of them are coming out, though. That's the thing. I know there's a lot of them that have happened, but I don't know if they're all coming out physically. And that's the shame where I'm like, I want to read the reality show version of the X-Men. Why can't I get a one shot of this instead of, and again, I continue to have the same complaint with this digital platform is that if it was on Webtoon or Tapas or somewhere there, people that don't read physical comics can read it and get invested. I'd feel so differently, but it's in continuity. It's on a digital platform that only people that are going to the comic book store, I believe, would read. So it's just like, it's such a weird thing. I think honestly, the only people they're hitting is the Marvel Unlimited people that only read Marvel Unlimited.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So X-Men Green did come out physically.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seemed like they usually put them up physically, but they're not like new news. So I totally missed them when they do come out physically.
Right.
You know, so it's like the same effect. But I agree with you, Kat. I think if they put it on a platform that was more widely available to just like your random readers, that would be much better than putting it on Marvel Unlimited.
Look how successful the Batman webtoon is. It's out of continuity, but it kind of has its own continuity. And let's look at I'm going to actually screen share it. Let's look at how many people read this, how many people Batman webtoon.
I mean, it shows you too. You give something for free, and people. will take the time, they'll at least check it out,
55 million people. Yeah.
55 million people have read it,
views.
and there's 1.1 million people subscribed to this.
I'm one of them.
Great.
Yeah, it's a great series too. It's like, it's fun. I like it. But it has its own continuity. It feels fun, but it has a story. And then they did all these spin-offs too. They have a Zatanna book, they have a Red Hood book. So it's like, do something like that. And then give us the reality show X-Men. Like, give us the people that are reading them physically, that actually care about the Hellfire Gala, to us, and let us read it. It's just such a weird. It's weird.
Yeah, I agree.
When it comes to this, I'm on like both sides of the fence, right? One, it's kind of like, I kind of find it cool. Like, there are interviews with these characters about them being on the team. That might sound kind of cool, maybe for characters I care about, right? So for like Firestar, like, I might be interested to hear what she has to say about her thoughts on being on the X-Men team in general. That might sound cool, but for some of these other characters, I might not give a crap,
Yeah.
But then at the other sense, I'm like, well, do I really care what Firestar has to say about being on this team? Like, it's like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of frustrating, because it's just like, there was a day and time where we would never get this with X-Men, period, or any comic for that matter. And it's just like, is this the best ideas that we can come up with? I get this is kind of like an exclusive thing, but it's like, we get enough standing and sitting around and eating at the gala with fancy costumes. Now we're just going to get these guys sitting in a freaking chair and being like, Firestar, what do you think about being on the X-Men team? Well, I really didn't want it, but since I was voted to be on the team, I guess I might as well do it. And since Iceman is there, I worked with him once before with Spider-Man. It was a lot of fun, So, I mean, you might get stuff like that. And it's just like, do you really care about that? So I don't know. So just like any comic, it's going to have its viewers, but maybe that's why they're releasing it digitally and not wasting their time with it on paper, because they might not think this is something for everybody.
I think it's going to depend on how it's structured, right? Like, if it is just sitting there talking head stuff, that's going to be boring as all get out. But like, if they show flashes to the gala and things that happen, and they throw in a little comedy or drama or stuff, it might be fun. But at the same time, it's like, do I care enough? And I don't care enough to check it out on Marvel Unlimited.
No, there's so few things I care about enough to go check it out on Marvel Unlimited.
And
this is such an extra step.
And this is the best that we can do with X-Men right now. I mean, like, there's so many characters, and I feel like there's the potential is limitless, and we're doing reality TV in a comic book for X-Men. Like, I feel like there's just something wrong with that,
It's interesting because, again, there's this balancing act of like, okay, you don't want to give too many big characters in this unlimited app, because it's like, oh, then people are going to complain. Like, I think the Wiccans and Hulkings was kind of a perfect fit, where it's just like, oh, they're big enough that maybe it'll convince somebody to like want to read this, but not big enough that they like, people will miss out if it's a physical copy, or at least the majority would miss out. Yeah. So I think that's what they're trying to do with the X-Men. It's like, they can't do Kitty Pryde, because like, she's too big of a character, or they can't do Storm or Cyclops. So they're like, let's do this because it's just big enough.
Yeah, it's like those magazine covers that were in the mock-up of the image and stuff. It's like Monet and Gorgon and Surge, and it's characters like that. They're like, okay, Avalanche hit on, or did this, somebody hit on, I think it was Micromax hit on Siren, and it's celebrity gossip style stuff that they're showing so far. So
and it is weird because you did mention it, Kat. It's that balance. It's like, are these characters even important enough for these people to read about that? And Brant said it, if it's talking heads and it's just someone sitting there in a chair or whatever it is, that makes it even worse. So it's a tough thing, man. It really is. So, I mean, if the writers can pull this off, then my hat's off to them, right? But being that it's in Marvel Unlimited, I think it's definitely a crutch. It needs to be somewhere accessible where, like you said, like a webtoons. I think that would be perfect for that.
For sure. That is all the news. I do have a Kickstarter going on, so I'll talk about that, and then we'll get into the comics. I'm going to screen share. The Kickstarter is only going on until Thursday, so don't miss out. We have a little less than 48 hours, and it looks about a dancer / assassin. When she was little, she witnessed her parents being murdered in front of her and never dealt with that trauma until now. So hopefully you guys go check it out. We have some exclusive content here too. So if you like that, that's a great reason to support the Kickstarter. So that is the answer. So let's move into the comic books.
That's right. It's comic time. So, yeah, this week we have some actual comics to talk about, which is good. Next week, though, might be a little bit of a different story. Might have like one book up there. We might not even have a top 5. It's going to be definitely a challenge next week for sure. But
might be a top 3 or something.
Yeah, right.
It might have to be. I think it would be interesting to do a top 5 just for the sake of that number 5 is going to be an interesting book.
Yeah,
I don't even know if I have 5 books I'm going to be reading though.
Ooh.
I think I have at least 5. Yeah.
Do you? I have to double check. I know I have Spider-Man, Thunderbolts, Superman. Those 3 for sure off of the top of my head. So
I might get the Flash annual. I'm torn. I don't know. We'll see.
I'm probably not going to get the Flash annual, but
let's
I'll get
talk
Superman.
about what's that?
I said I'm probably not getting the Flash annual, but I'll get Superman.
I'm not getting the Flash annual. I was reading at it. I'm like, I don't want to see these 2 take a journey, like in an adventure together, because now she's got powers and stuff. It's gonna.
She has powers now.
Yeah.
No.
That just like seems like a total filler, like complete filler for me. And then I was looking at the Wonder Girl one, and I'm like, oh wait, it's Yara Flora, but it still takes place after the trial of Amazons. Yeah, I know. I'm not reading that either. So I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. That's it.
Yeah, we'll see. I was reading that comment.
No, that's fine.
That'll be dead air on the podcast. All right. Next, we have we're going to talk about Fantastic Four issue 46. So we get the introduction finally of the half sister. Joanna Jeffers is her name. She's a marine biologist. She's kind of a smart ass, right? And she's very hard nosed, very jealous of Reed because Nathaniel Richards is like showed some kind of sympathy towards Reed. So she's just kind of like jealous of him. And I thought the issue, though, as a final issue, it was like the Reckoning War. There just seemed like way too much was trying to happen. It's like, hey, I'm Reed. Let's go on this adventure. Why don't you meet my family? Why don't you meet some of my other family members? And it was just, oh my God, it was just like an overload of stuff that happened in that book. And I'm just like, wow. Here is my thought process, though, real quick before I ask you guys. The one thing I was hoping for was when the ship was going through its turbulence in space, I was like, oh, here we go. Joanna Jeffers is going to become a bad guy or enemy. She's going to get radiation and she's going to be vengeful towards Reed Richards. Like, I was hoping for that. And then nothing happened. They just land and then they go fishing. I'm like, that sucks. At least she could have been like, became like a future Fantastic Four member or something like that. I was like, this is it? This is all we're going to see of her? I don't know. We'll see. What did you guys think?
That's definitely the shame of this, because like it was a solid story. Like I enjoyed it as a one shot, but it's like, oh, this is like you said, like we had all this reckoning war. Why didn't we deal with this? Like this is an interesting story. Why are we not getting more of her? Will we ever see her again? It's just a weird note to end on.
There was so many weird things in this issue, honestly. But as far as the sister goes, I don't know. Yeah, it was a weird note to end on. I agree. It would have been more interesting if she, either had powers, got powers, or in some way, shape, or form, like was going to be more involved in his life. Like
Yeah.
at first, he was just like, "No, I don't ever want to see you again, dude." It's like, what? What was the whole point of that then? But I mean, I get that. I understand it to a degree. But yeah, it was just this whole issue was weird, and it's like we finally get to see Johnny Storm get powered down
very quick.
Yeah, but it wasn't even Reed that did it. It's like all that build up to Reed, you got to fix this for me. And it's like, no, I can't. They'll do it. and then like things like, no, I'm good. I'm gonna stay Rock. It's like, what?
Here's your opportunity. And he's like, no, my kids are this way. They're different, so I'm gonna stay different.
Yeah. Which I mean, it's great that he finally accepted, his fate and who he was and all that stuff. But at the same time, it's all these years. How many ever years it's been, 60 years, whatever. It's like the thing has always wanted to be human. And it's like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah. Like, and I like how Reed like takes her all over the freaking galaxy, all over the place. And he's like, I want you to be part of my family. And she's just like, no.
I like that. I actually genuinely enjoyed that.
And he's like, oh, okay. But then it just quickly turns around and it becomes a Full House moment. And it's like, oh, let's go fishing. And it's like, let me disguise you. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I would have loved if they did at least plant the seed that she was going to become something else. Mm-hmm. Just a little hint of something, right? Or even this issue not being so compressed and maybe spread it out to another issue, or try to get Dan Slott to get to 50 because he was at what, 48? Is that where we were at?
46. Yeah.
Something, I don't know, but at least give another issue or something like that. It was just weird how it just kind of he had to, finish up all those loose ties and have it end. So it was kind of weird.
Yeah. Agreed.
So, all right, let's move on. Detective Comics, Volume 2, 1063.
I forgot I read this. I was like, oh, I didn't read this. I know I did. That's my thoughts on it.
So it's definitely like Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah.
Like, it's like Two-Face. It was like
musical style. Can I ask you guys something? When did I called him Goldface. When did Harvey Dent become? When did he become good? And when did
I have no idea.
Face.
I missed that completely. Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe in this issue. Yeah,
I thought it was just me. Yeah.
I felt like, and I feel about this run so far is like I've seen this before. Like the tone is so similar to things we've seen before. It's just honestly forgettable. And I said this last week. I'm like, it's hard to read this when you have a really good Batman series because I don't need this because I have this Batman series.
I did like this issue slightly better than the last one, but at the same time, it's like when whatever that figure is appears to him and starts talking to him about his duality and all this stuff, it's just like I don't care about that. I thought the Two-Face stuff was fine, but it didn't invest me. It wasn't like, oh, I got to see what happens with Two-Face next. So
I like the artwork in this book. I love I actually like the Two-Face stuff, even though I have no idea what happened to him that he got this way. Maybe this is something that we don't know, and it's going to explore that going forward. So I like that aspect of the book, but I'm not sure if I'm going to get or if I can get vested in these new villains. And I think that's what I have the little bit of an issue with here when it comes to it. So I don't know. Time is going to tell if I will be on this book. I mean, like Batman blew me away, right? Like I really love the first 2 issues of Chip Zdarsky's run on that. Like, and that's what I want from Detective too. And again, that's getting spoiled there by Chip Zdarsky's writing. And Ram V for me is like hit and miss, right? So like when he does Venom, it's not good for me, right? When he writes his portion of it. When he writes Carnage, the first 3 issues of Carnage were like freaking fantastic, right? These past 2 have not been as good. So it's just like he's very inconsistent for me. And curious to see what he'll do in the long term with this series.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I did think the Arkham stuff was interesting, the history of how Arkham came to be in this issue.
Yeah.
But again, it's just like little things in the issue were like, that's kind of interesting, but it wasn't like, oh my God, this is so good. I got to check this out.
Right. Is it going to make a difference for you in the
Right.
whole overall reading experience?
Right.
It's like, oh yeah, I got this little history lesson. That's great. But now what? You know?
Mhm.
So I don't know. We'll see. All right. So let's move on to our top 5. Kicking it off with number 5, Kat, go for it.
Mine was Spider-Man. I like the action in this issue. I don't know if I love the plot because, like, I don't love Peter being so easily manipulated by Norman. I know he's like a good guy now, but I'm like, man, he did a lot to you, and now you're just like kind of teaming up and like being best friends with him, which I find weird. But I like the action, but it's just a point A to point B issue. I don't think there's much in this issue.
Yeah, it was still a better issue for me though. It was my number 7, so it wasn't. It was higher than it has been. So I enjoyed it, but I agree with you on the points that you brought up. It's like the whole stuff with Norman is weird, and I don't know how I feel about all that. But again, we don't know what happened in these 6 months yet. So
and we never will.
It is. I like the issue myself. I pointed this out. I hated that emoji mask moment. I thought that was
that was
stupid. I'm like, that is the worst thing you could do. Like, we don't need Spider-Man to have emojis on his mask. Like, that's just dumb. I could get by all the other stuff that was introduced with his new suit. You know, I actually thought the spider bomb was kind of cool because it's like, think about that. You throw that at your enemy and just an attack of robotic spiders all over you. Like, that's kind of creepy, right? My biggest, I mean, I agree with you guys when it comes to the Norman Osborn situation. And I think anybody would agree with us when it comes to that because it's a enemy. And at least Zeb Wells has recognized it in the issue where Peter even says to himself, like, you know, Norman thinks I'm going to forget about everything that he's done and this and that. But I think what's going on in this book is Peter's trying to be the better person and understand what's going on and trying to realize that Norman is trying to recover. He's almost like an alcoholic in a way. It's just like, oh, if he gets back into the action, you know, he's going to go back to his old ways. And it feels like that's Peter is more like a sponsor or a mentor to keep him in the right track. You know, again, he feels like that Norman is his responsibility. So I feel like that's why he is teaming up with him here. And we still have, like you said, this 6 months that we have to figure out what's going to happen if we ever do happen. But I liked it. I liked the issue too, man. I thought it was good. Just gotta get past the emoji thing.
I think it's heavy to let the comic Ken Zeb Wells leave Amazing Spider-Man. If he left, there wouldn't be any writer because I feel like the problems that a lot of people have with Spider-Man is that obviously Mary Jane and Peter are not together, but Dan Slott couldn't control that. Zeb Wells can't control that. Nick Spencer can't control that. If you want changes, it's not going to be these writers because no matter what writer goes on this book, they're not going to be together because it's what Marvel wants. So it's just like we can't blame the writer. You know, that's their.
You just got to get over it at this point. Yeah, you just got to get over it, and you got to try to appreciate something a little bit different, right? We've never seen a team up like this before, and we still don't know why they're really teaming up. So that's the mystery of the series, right? I mean, John Romita Jr.'s artwork is not the best, but I thought in this past couple of issues, when it comes to him fighting the Vulture, I thought was okay.
It was good art from him. Like I thought this was some of his better work, even though I don't like it. It was strong for what I've seen of him in the past.
Right. I feel like you can truly see that he's truly trying to do well on this, you know? And so there's something about his artwork, though, like when it comes to these action scenes, like it seems familiar. It seems like, I don't know if it's because of Kick-Ass or whatever it is. There's something about it that I don't love it, but there's something that I can admire or just respect from it, I guess. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for. Like, I can respect his work.
Yeah, I think it's just not for us. That doesn't mean it's bad, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. So that was Cat. So Brant, what was yours?
Mine was Rogues Gallery #2. I didn't like this one as much as the first issue, I don't think, but I still like the story, and I like that we got to see the other side of it. We got to see the actress's take on this and see that she actually is a huge comic fan, and all this hate that she's getting on the internet is kind of like what the effect it's having on her and on the show in general. So I thought that was a nice twist.
I really enjoyed this issue as a slasher fan, superhero fan. I love getting into her point of view.
Yeah.
I thought it was really well written because I really liked issue 1, and they were like, all right, we're gonna like it was just such a complete 360 or 180 in a great way, because you get to see her side of things and you really get to learn about her and feel for her. So I really enjoyed this one.
I agree 100%. At the end of the first issue, it was the kids going after her in her house. Wasn't that what it was?
Yeah.
Right.
They actually passed
each other in the end of the second issue.
Right.
So it kind of just like it met right there.
Mm-hmm.
I like this too, because I actually like this issue better than the first one.
Okay.
Yeah, me too. I really like the first one.
I just loved seeing her point of view, everything that she's gone through as an actress leading up to the point of her quitting. And and it shows you that people behind the camera are human beings too. And sometimes as viewers, right, we tend to take things too literally. So this is very much in our wheelhouse, right, where we have fans and we tend to overanalyze everything sometimes. And that's what the fans are on this particular show for this actress, right? One point she's loved. And then the next point, like as soon as she quits, it's like, oh, they hate her. You know what I'm saying? And they're taking it too far. So
and even though again she's a fan and that's why she quit, because she's like, oh, like I genuinely don't like what we're doing here, and then still like she's always wrong. And I just really loved how they showcase social media and like the effects of social media. I just thought it was very good, because sometimes I think social media is tricky with stories, because sometimes they're so on the nose and you're like, oh, this is cringe, and this didn't feel that way. It felt very organic to have that commentary.
Yeah, absolutely. So I liked it, how it's a very relatable comic book to read, you know, and that's what I love. That's what I really love about it. There you go. I'm a Comic Uno fan. I guess Brant and I are just the scrubs, right? We're
of course.
Are you gonna go to our house and like hate us and kill us and stuff like that?
I think so, but don't worry. Maybe the tides will turn, depending if I quit.
If you quit, maybe he'll like us, right?
Exactly.
Even though, he's a member of my channel. It's so funny. Oh man, my number 5 is actually Detective Comics. So,
oh wow,
yeah. I appreciate what he's trying to do. You know what I'm saying? I think it's definitely there. It's just it might take a little while for me. So we'll see what happens. All right. So what does Mike Knight say? Bumblebee Tuna. It's good to be able to catch the show for once. Nice.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So we have Minor Threat issue 1. I didn't even read this. I don't even know what it's about.
It's the Patton Oswalt.
Yeah.
I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. It's about a woman who is a sidekick to her mom as a kid, but she actually has meta powers where her mom didn't. And as she grows up, she gets put in prison. She just got out of prison. She's trying to set her life right. But the interesting twist about it is there's a Batman character who has a Robin character, and the Robin character is murdered. And so the Batman character goes ballistic and starts killing villains.
Shit.
Yeah, and she's caught in the middle of all this. And I thought that was a really interesting narrative. What'd you think of it, Kat?
I liked it. I enjoy the concepts a lot, but there was just something about it that felt very distant to me. And I think maybe because they were trying to explain so much in one issue, because there is a lot that happened. So I don't know if it hooked me for issue 2, but I appreciated what they did in this issue. Because again, the concepts are very interesting. You got hooked on this one?
Oh yeah, I loved it. I really liked it. So it I don't know. It was, I think, because I wasn't expecting to love it, that it just resonated with me on a different level, and I was just like, oh, this is really good. And so I'm totally down for the next issue. Yeah.
All right.
We'll see.
Okay, cool. So that's Minor Threat. All right. So now we're going to go on to number 4. My number 4 was Amazing Spider-Man. So you guys know that. And Brant, what was your number 4?
Damage Control.
Damage Control.
Yeah.
Really?
I like the fun. It was just goofy fun. And maybe that's what I was in the mood for at the time that I read it, or whatever. It reminded me of an indie book that I actually lettered a little bit of, called Superhuman Resources years ago.
Oh yeah, I remember. I know of the title, and I think I might have read it.
Yeah, so it just reminded me of that vibe. It's something completely different and just goofy and comical, and I was just, I don't know, in love with that at the time that I read it. So it was a lot of fun for me.
Me and Bran on different wavelengths on this one.
Yeah.
I didn't hate it. I was just like, I've seen this before. So it's the complete opposite of like, all right, literally they made a show, Powerless, and it got canceled. And it's this, it's the same exact show. I don't think it's a very
like that
unique
show,
concept.
Though, so I was disappointed when it got
There
canceled.
you go.
There you go. Yeah.
So maybe it was your fill for that show. But yeah, it was a fine first issue, but nothing was like, whoa, gotta get that issue too. Because there's just, the guy felt a little too uninteresting to me. He was just there, just seeing it all.
I would be totally fine if this was the only issue. I'm not saying that it's like, oh, this is going to have me hooked for 15, 20 issues. I just really like this issue for whatever reason.
First of all, I wasn't expecting 2 stories from this. And
I don't even know if I read the second story.
Was unreadable for me. The first story was okay, right? But I was expecting something different from this. Like, I was expecting this kid to go to work and him like actually teaming up with these heroes, right? Not being a mail delivery guy in the mailroom for damage control, trying to get an ice cream cake to people before it melts. Like, I didn't expect that. And then the main plot was literally, oh, you got to deliver all these letters or things can go bad. I was like, man, really? That's all we're going to get? Like, I would have loved to have seen him actually team up with like She-Hulk, Ghost Rider, of all these other characters, do a fun mission and have it be comical that way. That's what I was kind of expecting out of this book. And that did not happen. And that's why I was disappointed. And personally, for me, my expectation was like this high for this book. Like, I was expecting it to be really good. And it just, by the time I got done with it, I was like, oh man, I am disappointed. I didn't hate it, right? But when I thought about it, I was like, well, I might buy issue 2. Will it get better? And then I'm like, probably not. And the more I think about it, I probably won't buy issue 2.
See, I guess I was the opposite. Like Minor Threats, I wasn't expecting anything out of it. I really wasn't expecting to like it at all. And so it was just the opposite for me. So plus I just have a weird sense of humor, I guess. I don't know.
No, I mean, listen, I mean, it's not like I didn't find it funny. It's for me, it was my expectations were different from it.
Yeah,
you know?
It's fine.
I'm happy that you like
it.
I'm happy that you like it. I will say that to anybody. Like, you like a book, man, that is absolutely fantastic.
Right.
You know, I just don't like when I have these expectations for a title and then I'm personally, for me, it's disappointing. I'm like, man, that's a bummer because I really wanted to like the book. That's the thing. I tried so hard to like it and I'm like, man, I don't really like it. And I hate when that happens, you know?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
We do have a comment from Mike Knight. I like hearing your top 5 for the week. What about your comic of the month? It's now the end of August. So what we actually do on Comic Frontline at the end of the year, we do best comic of the year. So that's kind of the way we like talk about all the comics we really liked from the year. So if you enjoy like that type of stuff, we'll be doing that again in December, January, not August.
All right. So we all went for our number 4, correct?
I did not. Mine was
you didn't
Fantastic
go.
Four. Yeah, mine was Fantastic Four. We already talked about it.
All right. So now we will move on to number 4. Past the number 4, and now we move on to Axe Judgment Day issue 3.
Good luck.
This was my worst pick of the week. There was Damage Control, right? And then there was Axe Judgment Day issue 3. Like this series, Brant, I'm sorry, and I hate saying this, but this is my worst Marvel event that I have personally ever read.
That's harsh.
And I always
understand.
try to find the positive in a Marvel event or any event in that matter. This book is just boring for me. There's too much talking.
I agree with you.
Judging, like why are we judging? And then we do this thing where it looks like the end of the world is happening. Oh, just kidding. It's a vision. Just testing you guys. There's a couple of people that had
that completely took me out of it. Yeah.
It's like, come on. Nothing happens in this event. It's all fake. Anyone that dies comes back alive immediately. Something that happens that's major, it doesn't really happen. It's just a bunch of nonsense. And it's just like nothing has physically happened in this event so far.
It lost me, Mike, when he judged Captain America first and gave him a thumbs down. It's like, if Captain America is not worthy of receiving a good judgment, then the whole world's screwed. So just forget it. You're done.
And him standing around doing this the whole time is a joke. He's like,
I agree. I completely agree with you. It was just that one issue of X-Men, I think, Red, that I enjoyed.
Everything
else, yeah. So
me too. Yep. And that was because you actually got to see what happened there.
Yeah.
And because someone told me in my comments, oh, if you want to find out what happened on Mars, you need to read X-Men Red. And I'm like, oh, so that they don't put it in the main book, but they're going to put it in the tie-in book. But that's the only thing in this whole entire event that's meant something, or you wanted to see what happened, right? It's so frustrating, this book. It's so sad. And it's just like, but there's been really no build up to it either. So what can you really expect from an event like this?
Yeah. Unfortunately for me, because I'm getting most of my books through DCBS, I had pre-ordered like the first 3 issues before I knew what it was. And so by the time I'm like, I don't really love this, I'd already pre-ordered 4. So I'm like, well, I might as well just finish it at this point. So
yeah. There's nobody that stands out, and because there's too many characters, and that's a big problem that I have with this book.
Yeah,
it was bad enough when you had Avengers versus X-Men. There was all those characters, but somehow, some way, they made it work because always someone had a piece of the Phoenix Force, and they kind of highlighted that particular character, and then your Avengers had to deal with these X-Men that had the Phoenix Force, right?
Yeah. With this one, it's just you're dealing with the entire mutant population, the entire Eternals population, all the Avengers, and a third of the book is focused on these 6 random people from around the world and how they're reacting to this.
And who cares about them?
Right. Because we're never going to see them again. So it's like, why? What?
It's like this event tries to be big, and it's just not.
Yeah,
it's almost trying too hard, and that's a shame. It really is a shame. So
I really did want to like this.
I did too.
Yeah,
I was hoping that this could maybe somehow get me into the Eternals more. But it doesn't do that at all.
No, it does the opposite.
And I've been still trying to read to find out like what's going on. because I want to see what happens afterwards.
Yeah.
And if nothing happens afterwards, well, then that's a whole other problem in itself.
Cat's like, man, I'm glad I dropped this.
No, yeah, no, I'm glad I did not waste the money. I'm good.
Like, I'm telling you, like, I know you didn't read Original Sin, and you're like, oh, I'm not reading Original Sin.
No, I read all Original Sin. I just didn't like it.
Yeah.
Original Sin is a masterpiece. A masterpiece compared to this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I could even agree with that. And I didn't like Original Sin. But when I read this, I remember, and I said this, and why I really didn't pick up after issue 1. There's usually something I understand from an event where I'm like, I can see why people like this. And I'll be like, all right, there's one thing I might want to read to see and continue. There was nothing in that. If in that issue, I was like, yeah, I want to see what happens next.
Black Vortex was much better than this in itself.
I like Black Vortex a lot. Yeah.
That was that was an underrated event. I never thought it was going to be as good as that was, you know?
And that was a Bendis event too.
I'm almost thinking that when what's her face got the Phoenix Force when they did that tournament of the tournament of the Phoenix.
Oh,
that's almost better than this. I kid you not.
That's brutal, man. But I agree with you. I think
hate this thing. I hate it. It's horrible.
Echo, right?
Here we got a comment right here. Original Sin was bad. You can't tell Cat that.
It wasn't Cat's thing.
Wasn't my thing.
Yeah,
wasn't my thing.
I really liked the original Sin.
I like that.
Yeah,
it was really good. All right,
it was a Hickman book, right? Who wrote that?
No, that wasn't Hickman.
Was it Jason Aaron?
It is.
I don't
Let me
remember.
look.
Yeah, look.
Original Sin Marvel was Jason Aaron. You're correct.
Okay. Yeah.
Dadato did the artwork, right?
I believe
that's what I didn't like about it.
Yeah,
the artwork
you don't
was
like
a big factor.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Moving on to Radiant Black issue 17. So didn't see this coming either.
Wow. Yeah.
Right?
I really love the action sequences when that thing happened. That was really cool.
I mean, we can talk about it. I mean, so you got Nathan and Marshall sharing the power, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're now both Radiant Black, but I think they have to be Radiant Black at certain times, or can they be at the same time?
They can't be at the same time because they did half and half, which I thought
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were like trading off for half and half.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
I was a little confused. I was like, okay, wait, who has the power? Who doesn't have the power?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was kind of funny because at first I always got Nathan and Marshall confused of who they were. And I'm just like, I always get them just mixed up for some reason. And I'm like, okay, is Nathan going to become Radiant Black again? Is Marshall Radiant Black again? Are they going to switch it? Well, now both they are. So now it makes it easier to understand.
Yeah. And it was a cool twist because it's like, okay, last issue we thought Marshall was dying. This issue we thought Marshall was dying. And then it's like, Marshall didn't die. So what do you do? And yeah, I thought that was a really cool way to go with it. And now like everybody's confused. Like the yellow Radiant was expecting a completely different outcome.
And there was a cliffhanger with that. It's like, oh wait, this shouldn't happen because you're fucking up everything. I was like, oh, that's really cool.
The future. Is that the power of the yellow?
We're gonna find out more in the next issue. I thought the origin was this issue, but this next issue we're gonna like learn more about his powers and stuff.
Right.
So I liked the twist. I just felt that some of the things were confusing in the book, just because of the transfers of power, what was happening. And then finally, it was like, okay, finally it makes sense at the very end. I like the twist. And I'm very curious to see now, how is it going to affect the two characters, right? They're best friends, but is one going to get in the way of the other? Like, what's going to happen with this?
I think there's going to be some ego for sure.
I don't see these two sticking together forever. I feel like they're going to become enemies.
I mean, it's possible because it's like Marshall, when Nathan came back, it's like they're jealous of each other, right?
Yeah.
So, it's going to come to a head at some point. But right now, I think they're going to have like this little honeymoon phase where they're like happy, right?
Yeah.
They're both sharing and they're both being able to access the power, but then it's going to come to that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's a cool book. I like it. Always. All right, so let's move on now to number 3. Kat, what's your number 3?
Mine's Radiant Black. We already talked about it.
All right. Brant?
Robin, number 17, last issue, sadly.
I know. Such a good book.
Yeah. And it was fun seeing Damien and all of them like just have a beach day. I thought that was so much fun. And it's like, man, Damien has evolved so much, like we talked about last week. He's evolved so much throughout this series. And it was just cool to see. And obviously we get, him going on this mystery and leading into Batman versus Robin, but I just thought it was a fun issue and seeing the culmination. I hated that him and Flatline had to part ways again. Yeah. But
there was some seeds still planted though in there.
Yeah.
You still got the heart, right? It's still it was passed down to Mother Soul. So obviously you're going to see another clone. That's what's going to happen in this. Then did you see Respawn there? That was Respawn.
Yeah.
And
I think so, in the shadows. Yeah.
So
which I'm guessing
I was like, oh, wow, that's cool. So there was a couple of little things in there that I appreciated. I did want a little bit more from this book.
Sure.
I don't think it blew me out of the water. I don't think it's like, best finale ever, but it was just such a solid run. And I want more comic runs like this. Absolutely. Yeah, and it was still a well-rounded finale. Like I really liked it. The art has been consistent throughout the 17 issues. It just, if you're looking for a solid Damian story, I actually think this is the best Damian story from beginning, middle, and end. I think there's probably like better, like bigger stories for Damian. I think this is the best well-written story of Damian. That's again more long form.
It's a solid coming of age story for him and him trying to find out who he is, and he's still trying to find out who he is.
Yeah.
So,
and I also like the tease of Connor Hawke going to find his dad, and I don't know where that's going to happen or what, but
And the artwork was consistent throughout the entire series too. Love the artwork in that book. It was beautiful all the way through. So overall, great series. I'm sad to see it go, but maybe we'll get another one day. Who knows?
I mean, we have the Tim one, so I think that's their Robin book for now. So we'll see.
Yeah.
My number 3 is a book that's back. It's Gun Honey, issue 1.
Nice.
Blood for Blood. That's what this one is. Cool story. I actually like this story better though this time because Pamela is her name, and she is been on a 7-month vacation basically since the last mission that she was on. Now all of a sudden someone is framing her, is killing people, and they're blaming it on her. And now they're trying to find out who this person actually is. They think that they worked in the military, that they knew this girl at one point or another. Quite interesting issue. Artwork is absolutely gorgeous in this book. Not too much like explicit stuff that happens in this book. There's only like 1 page or something like that. But overall, I thought that the story was really well done. Looking forward to the next issue. This is like a Black Widow, like 007 type of book, but almost like female style. So really good read.
Nice. I think my knight has. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Sorry. Marvel just needs to get rid of the whole editorial staff because, as I have heard on another stream, having editorial-driven stories can or does end up killing any series if they aren't careful. That's when you think about it, editorial's been in charge for comics for years. They're gonna want certain things done, and that's why we talked about it on here before. That's why you get certain creators that leave to do their own work so they can write their own stories. That's basically what it is, right?
Yeah. It's just I don't know. Certain directives like Mary Jane and Peter Parker can never be together. I don't like those kind of things, and it's hard. I'm sure it's got to be difficult as a creator having those limitations and not being able to do what you want with a character, but they go into that knowing that. So
exactly. So it's just like, okay, well, I gotta still have Mary Jane in the book, but what can I do with that? How can I have her in there but not have them be together? You know, that's definitely gotta be complicated, because it's just like, think about it. If like I was an ex-girlfriend in the other room, how, like, that's kind of weird, isn't it? You know what I'm saying? And it's on again, off again, on again, off again. Eventually that's going to wear you out personally, right? And eventually you're going to want to go away and not be with that person anymore. So
yeah,
it's tough. All right. So we all did number 3, right?
Believe so.
Okay. So we talked about Rogues Gallery. So we're going to dive into the number 2. So what was your number 2, Kat?
Mine was Robin.
Okay, cool. Brant?
Mine was Minor Threats.
Okay.
I thought that was going to be your number 1.
Mine
Not
was
quite.
Rogues Gallery, issue 2.
Nice.
So that was that. And then what do we got? Number 1, is that it? Oh, we talked about Damage Control. So my number 1 was Gunslinger Spawn issue 11. Listen, I'll say it every time. You don't need to be a follower of Gunslinger or Spawn comics in general to read this comic book. If you want to jump on it, you read one trade. I think it covers the first 6 issues. And then you can find a couple of the other back issues on there, and you're on board. This is such a great book. Like, the character of Gunslinger Spawn is so well written. He's got some of this past. He's got, you know, he has this history where he's trying to get back to his time. His sister was killed. He meets an everyday Joe Schmo that is connected to a bloodline. He's just a teenager, but tries to help him go around, you know, Earth to figure out things. Along the way, he's teamed up with the other Spawn characters. It's such a good book, man. Brett Booth's best artwork to date by far. It is so good. This is one of my favorite books, and you can't beat the price, man. For $3, you just can't beat the price of this comic book. So well done, for sure.
Cool.
Right, number 1.
Radiant Black. It's my favorite book on the stands today. So.
Nice. It's got to be Cats.
No, Rogues
Gallery.
Gallery.
Oh, Rogue. Yeah. That's right. Rogues Gallery. Okay. That's right. All right.
Different number 1s this time around. I feel like that rarely happens these days. We usually are on the same. At least 2 of us have the same. So that was interesting that we all had different ones this week.
We were close around the you know, the other ones, but the number 1s were completely different. That's for sure. All right, so Brant, I'll pass it on to you. We're gonna do the most anticipated now.
Yeah, and we got some different books this week as well. And
it's an interesting week.
Yeah, exactly. So let's start with you, Kat, because yours are mostly different.
Yeah. So number 3 for me was Power Rangers Unlimited Death Ranger. We were introduced to the Death Ranger in Ryan's run, ended up being Jason, the original Red Ranger. So I was like, all right, it'd be cool to pick up an issue to learn more about what this is about. So that is number 3. Number 2 is Amazing Fantasy. The reason it's not number 1 is just because I do think it's going to be a very filler book. I don't think much is going to happen, but it's Spider-Man. So obviously going to pick that up. And then number 1 for me is DC's Saved by the Bell Reeve. It's like a fun comedy book. And Tiny Titans has a story in this. And it's been a long time since we've gotten Tiny Titans. So that was the reason why it's number 1. I'm like, it looks like a fun time.
Gotcha. Cool. And Mike.
So I have Ant-Man number 3. Originally it was Spawn, but Spawn got delayed a week. So the next one on the list was Ant-Man. So we got Ant-Man issue 2. Curious to see the direction of this second issue. Like I said, it's kind of a pivotal one. You heard how I thought about if I was going to get the Wasp issue or whatnot. So when that comes out, but yeah, it's going to go much into the future, I'm assuming. So I'm looking forward to that. Amazing Fantasy issue 1000. Same reason like Cat. It's not my number one because it's not a real book. It's like an anthology story. It's all a bunch of short stories, like Marvel. What was it? Marvel Comics 1000. It's gonna be the same exact thing.
Yeah.
And then my number one is actually Thunderbolts issue 1.
I'm worried about this book, which is the only reason I didn't do top 3. I'm like, oh man, I hope
I'm worried about it, but it's still my most anticipated. Just because it's the new book coming out this week, the only real new book coming out this week. You know, so I'm excited to check out what Clint Barton has to offer in this story.
So Thunderbolts is my number 3 for the same reasons. It's like I've just been burnt on Thunderbolts in the past too many times, so I'm a little nervous about it. I hope it's really good, but I'm trying to meter my expectations.
Right.
And the only reason I'm interested personally in Thunderbolts is one character, which is Hawkeye. So I'm like, ooh, is one character going to carry this whole book?
Yeah, for sure. My number 2 is Firefly, the 20th anniversary special. I'm a little behind on the books, but the teams on this are really cool. The Jorge Corona, who wrote on the Me You Love in the Dark, and then the other story is got Fabiana Mascalo, who's doing all new Firefly. Love her art. So, and I'm a big Firefly fan, so definitely excited for that one. And just kind of, I'm after you guys talking about it, I'm a little disappointed in my order here, but I got to make some 1000 my number 1 spot just because. So
it's a weird week. It's a weird anticipation. Yeah. I was talking about this, I think pre-show, but I was like, I think I might get the new Tom Taylor graphic novel because I'm like, I normally wouldn't because it's a graphic novel and it takes a long time to read for that week. But I'm like, you know what? It's a week where I could get a graphic novel and see if that'd be good. So yeah, I might get that. I feel like just again, it might be the week where you give chances to books, and maybe you'll find, the gold in the rough there.
The funny thing is that with these books, though, you gotta be very careful with them because
they're
very expensive. They're like $6-7, and there's a lot of reading within them. These annuals have a lot of pages. Right. The Spider-Man book has a lot of pages. So very quickly your pages are going to add up. But buy what you think you're going to enjoy for this 5th week of the month. If you truly do not like the synopsis on the stories, then don't pick them up, man, because your story is going to continue no matter what in the very next issue. So,
yeah.
That's it. That's the most anticipated. And that's it, man. That's the show. We breezed through it this week. Not a problem at all.
We'll see next week.
Next week.
It could be 20-minute show.
Yeah, 20 minutes.
But we could
stretch it.
What we're thinking of, guys, is we'll talk about what comics we read, and we might do like a question and answer type of episode next week where you guys can ask us all kinds of different questions and stuff like that. We haven't done that in a while, and I think that could be a lot of fun. So to remind you, if we do decide to do that, maybe we'll do a thumbnail like that or something like that, so you guys will be reminded. But curious to see what you guys read next week, and that's it. We're going to close it out. You guys got anything else to say? Kat, you want to promote the Kickstarter one last time?
Yeah. So go check out The Dancer. We have until Thursday, so go support that. If you're in Staten Island this Sunday, I'm going to be at the Richmond County Fair. So if you like fairs, we're selling comics there. So look forward to that. And, got my comic book reviews tomorrow as well.
Nice. All right. Sweet. Anything, Brant, going on with you?
I'll have a new episode of my wrestling podcast probably either this weekend or right after this weekend. There's a couple of pay-per-views, so I'll be talking about those. It's allpodcast.com. And I think that's it for now. My Kickstarter's over. So,
and then for me tomorrow, you guys can expect my usual comic book day haul. And then you can check out after the poll on Thursday. And then what do we got on Friday? I don't even know yet. I don't know. I'll find out. I'll do something. And then Saturday we'll do something, and then Sunday we'll do something else. And we got that. It's going to be a tough comic book week to do content on. So we'll see what happens. So with that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching this week's episode. We will be back and do it all over again. So until then, make sure you subscribe to both channels, Comic Book Weekly, and make sure you subscribe to Comic Book Corner 2.0. Make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss any notifications from us when this show does go live every Tuesday night, 10:15 p.m. Eastern. And of course, after you're done watching the show or while you're watching the show, make sure you give this a thumbs up. Lets people know that it's out there. And of course, you can follow us on social media, even though we're kind of bad about doing it. It's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course, YouTube. YouTube is the one, of course, that's like by default, right? So there you guys have it. There's the show. We're going to wave. We're going to say goodbye. And again, guys, have a great night and happy new comic.